Okay, so after many psukim that happen to be in the chapter that I've taught a lot of, we are finally at a pasuk that I either I haven't learned or it's been a very, very long time since I've learned it, and I'm really excited about this one. We'll see why. This is Mishlei 17:16. Lama ze mechir biad ksil liknos chochma v'lev ayin. Would like to translate for our initial translation. You got to kind of play fast and loose here with the lama ze part. Anyone? You don't have our usual Isaiah.
Yeah. Um, two, no, sorry, 1 second.
Sure.
Um, Llama, like this is for what? Or
Yeah, for what?
okay,
That's
so
what happened.
for what is this sold in a hand?
Yeah,
In
so Mechir, I think this
a
translation is
hand?
pretty good. Price. You could say payment, hire, wage. So let's say like price, hire, wait, payment. Okay.
Yeah, by hand, maybe.
Bit, yeah, like most literal way possible.
In
Bit.
a hand.
Yeah, in the hand.
So the fool, a
Yeah, biad,
fool.
biad ksil.
Oh, oh, in the hand of a fool.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Liknos chachma v'lev ayin. Like koneh.
Yeah, who purchases
Yeah.
wisdom? Purchasing
Liknos with an
wisdom
infinitive.
to purchase wisdom.
You purchase wisdom.
And a heart there is not.
Yeah. And there
Heart
is
there.
no. Okay. Okay, so we'll modify this as we go. All right. So as we just I'm gonna kind of just narrate what we're doing here for those who are new. So we start off by just having a our own attempt to translate. Then we go to what I call the minimalist commentators, who are people who just translate or just define the words, but they don't give any commentary. And then we do translations, like English translations, and then we start analyzing. Okay, so um, we have the Metzus David, who says Mechir is inyan demeh hadavar. So he says Mechir. I'll put the transliteration here. This Mechir. So he says Mechir is the value of something, the erko and worth, and its worth. So kamo ublo Mechir yain v'chalav. Okay. Malbim says Mechir is mitzayin hachalipin umechir sadeh atudim. So he says it is not the value, I guess not like the abstract value, but the exchange or barter, like the thing that you're exchanging or bartering. Um, as in the price of a field of goats. When it is used of money, it signifies money functioning as a medium of exchange, as though it were an object given as the price of the item acquired. Oh, we got a Mayan. Hey, Mayan. Nice to see you. All right, I'm not trying to single anyone out, but just always nice when we get like a guest on a familiar channel. Okay, so I think Masus David is saying like the abstract value of something, and then Malbim is saying it's like the thing that you exchange for something else. Okay, Hoyel Moshe says Mechir is Sach Gadol Liknos Davar Yakar Hanimkar. So an enormous sum to purchase something really expensive. Okay. And then Sadigon says, Lama ze yihye mechir biad hakstil shiur te liknos chachma b'li dea. So he says, um, I just lost my place. Oh yeah. Lama ze yihye, why should there be, I think, um, mechir, I don't know how he's translating mechir, in the hand of a fool who wants to buy wisdom without knowledge. Okay. So those are some of our minimalist translations here. All right, now we're going to go on to the actual English translations. Our scroll says, "Why is there money in the hand of a fool to purchase wisdom, though he has not an understanding heart?" Now, this is a move that our scroll makes a lot because in Tanakh, lave often is paired with the word like lave lahavin, like a heart to understand. So they always add in understanding heart in our scroll. Rav says, this is my least favorite translation. What good are the means in the hand of a conceited fool to purchase wisdom when his heart is not in it? I just think it's a very loose translation. The means. I mean, I guess that's kind of like the Malbim of like the exchange, but whatever. Okay, Alter says, why is there a fee in the hand of the fool to buy wisdom when he has no sense? And he comments, this is an interesting observation here. He says, a fee. In other contexts, the Hebrew noun means price. It has been plausibly inferred from this line that there was some general practice of paying teachers for wisdom instruction of the kind one finds in Proverbs, right? So let's say like a tutor in like the sense of I don't know, like an ancient world where the tutor is not like teaching you just in subjects, but they're like, you're paying them to like make you into a wise, fully rounded human being. Okay. Okay. And then lastly, we have who I call our YouTube friend, Reuven Peskin, who comments on all my YouTube videos. So he sent me a whole discourse this morning. So here's his discourse. He says, so I really like this translation. What's with the money in adult's hand to buy wisdom when he has no sense? So he says, he explains, he has a little commentary on each one. What's with thee? The Hebrew lamazeh is a term expressing disapproval, like in Bereshis 18:13, or dismay. That's lamazeh li bechora. Esav says what good what good is my birthright for me? Okay. Bewilderment, indignation, and confusion. So he's saying it has a negative connotation. Alternatively, why would there be, or what good is, or what is the point of? Alters why is there lacks the bite of the Hebrew. Yeah, I agree. Lamazeh is like, like you picture an Israeli saying lamazeh. I don't know if they say that in Israel, but okay. And then money, mechir, literally means purchase price or payment or fee. And then he says when he has no sense, so he translates heart as sense, alternatively mind, or more colloquially brain. I don't know who this Clifford guy is. Big Red Dog. Is that the name of the Big Red Dog? Yeah, okay, right. I don't think that's him, though. I don't think he knew Mishlei. To acquire wisdom is a common exhortation in Proverbs 4:5 and elsewhere. The word kana can also mean to purchase. Fools misunderstand the metaphorical exhortation, taking it literally of buying it with money. Uh, okay, well, that's already interpretation. I shouldn't have read that. Okay, so let me copy all this into the chat. I'm actually going to copy the minimalist translations first. I'm going to delete reverse. Oh, sorry. Let me actually, I forgot to save my file here. Analysis notes. So what you see from here, I mean, usually we don't keep this much of our minimalist translations, but you see that there's like a lot of like nuanced options here. Oh man, again, okay, hold on a second here. Hold on here. Okay, so there is one set of minimalist of translations, and then let me do. So here's how I would translate it. Okay, if I had to modify ours, lama zeh, what is the point of this mechir, which is let's see, we have price, hire, payment, sum. What else do we have that we liked? Exchange in the hand of a ksil, okay, which is a mishleic fool. Oh, I want to comment on this, by the way. So I had a conversation when I saw Peskin say dolt. I had a conversation with him. I said, like, why do you say dolt? Because if you look at the ordinary dictionary, dolt means a stupid person. And I gave a shiur last night on Mishlei, like in front of an audience that I didn't think knew Mishlei. And so I wanted to say that, I don't know if I actually said this, but I wanted to say that a Mishleic fool is not someone who's stupid. And in fact, I don't think it's good to convey that they're stupid because you can have a very intelligent Mishlei ksil. And also, since the way that Mishlei changes you is, we all have a little bit of each Mishleic archetype in us, or some of us have a lot of it. So like if you're trying to see Mishleic faults in yourself and you say, well, the Ksil is the stupid person and I'm not stupid, I don't know, it just makes it a little bit harder. And that's why I like translating it as Mishleic fool, which I know is not precise. But like it gives you, it has the foolishness, which is like the main meaning of the word, but Mishleic causes you to like stop and like question, well, what does it mean, Mishleic fool? So we were talking about it some more. He said, actually, let me just read what he said here. I know we're not even answering questions yet, but I just want to like comment on we don't usually go so much into the translation of the word ksil. So he said, I'm not gonna read this whole comment, but he said, oh yeah, etymologically, ksil relates to fat, thick, smug, conceited. So I've considered it thick-headed or the like, but decided against it because it's too lengthy to work neatly in every case. I've also considered dullard because a dull knife is a thick knife, but I didn't like dullness of the translation. I wanted something with more of an insulting tone. Dunce, and the like also crossed my mind, but I found them a little bit too comical. Dolt was a happy middle. Okay, I suggested blockhead, which I don't know how many of you read like Peanuts comics, in your life, But I used to think that that was like a term that like, Charles Schultz coined. But then Johnny and I were reading something from like the 18th century, and we saw that they used blockhead back then. And then Rabbi Moskowitz uses the word moron, which I think is another good one. So anyway, so I just wanted to give a little, little commentary on Ksil there. Okay, so I'm going to post this in the chat. That's a working translation. Now I'm going to move all of this here. So the next step is, and I'm going to delete the Peskin thing because I don't want to see his answer. Okay, now we raise all the questions and problems that we can without giving any answers. That's the next stage. Okay, Avital crew.
I just have a question on that translation. How come
Yeah.
we didn't put mind? I feel like with leave we usually do.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, heart or mind. Yeah, good call. Rivki.
Yeah, also on that half, I feel like it kind of like peters off. Like maybe I'm missing something, but I feel like I know it doesn't always have to be opposite, but I don't really see where it's going with that.
Yeah, so it is a weird ChatGPT simpleton, dunce, clown, imbecile, nitwit, blockhead, dullard, buffoon, ignoramus, halfway. Halfway is a funny one. I don't know why that's the one that made me laugh, but yeah. So to answer Rivki's question, this is an unusual structure of a pasuk. According to the plain shot, it's like a rhetorical question, right? So it's not one of these two-sided psukim. It doesn't have fool contrasted with a chacham, but it's like what's up with what's the point of this money in the hand of a fool to purchase wisdom when there is no heart or mind? I mean, it's a question, but it's a rhetorical question. I don't think it trails off.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't thinking about it in the whole the beginning. Like I was like, there's no heart or mind. What?
Yeah, what is the point? I think is the best way to say lama zeh, or what's up with if you want to go with Peskin's thing. Yeah. Yes. Hofstra crew. I'm just gonna call you guys that for tonight.
Sounds good. I'm curious why the seal is trying to be Kona Chochmah. It seems like an anti-seal type of thing to do.
Okay, good. So that's going to be the big question here, which is what interest or motive does the seal have to buy Chochmah, right? And just to show you that this is the case, this is like Mishlei 101. Maybe this is the first appearance of the Ksil in Mishlei. I believe it is. When he first defines a Ksil. Actually, let me see if it's the first one. I think it is. Yep. Ad masai pisayim te'ehavu pesi v'leitzim latzon chamdulhem. So until when will you simpletons love your naivete and scoffers covet mockery for themselves? Uksilim yisnu das. And Ksilim, Mishlei fools hate knowledge. Okay. Now, granted, knowledge and Chochmah might not be synonyms, but seems to be related. Okay. So what? Oh, sorry. What's the fool even doing trying to get Chochmah, like to buy Chochmah? Like that's not. Like I said, it's not a Ksili type thing to do. Okay, Rivki.
Yeah, two questions. One is I know we have the translation of mechir, but what is it actually? Why not say kesef or whatever, another word for that?
Yeah. Okay, what exactly does mechir mean? And then I also want to say if this is not literal, which I'm pretty sure it is, I don't think there's our approach in Mishlei is we take things literally unless we're forced not to. I think we can take this literally. If it's not literal, what does it mean? Yeah. And then what was the other thing? You had another one?
Kind of on Yitzi's question, but what's the situation or what's going on with the Ksil that he's even doing this? Why is he buying the Chochmah?
Okay, right. So I'm just to split that off from the why question. What exactly? Actually, I'm going to put this down. Yeah, I'll put this closer to here. So, what? Oh, you know what? I just coined a term. Instead of saying silly, it's silly. What a silly thing to do.
Nice.
Right? That works out. Yeah. Okay. I don't think it's gonna make it into the mainstream. What exactly is the Ksil trying to do? Okay, practically, and right. In other words, this is not paying your friends on the Nebuchadnezzar in the Matrix and then saying download Chochmah into my mind. So he's paying money to someone to try to get Chochmah, but in what form? Is this like Alter said, is this you're paying a teacher to teach you? Is this I don't know, scamming his way to a degree? What exactly is he doing? practically, or trying to do practically. Yeah, Alex.
I'm curious what kind of Chochmah specifically.
Yes, good question. What does Chochmah mean in this context? Also, I want to split that question and say, is the Chochmah that the Ksil is trying to purchase actual Chochmah? Or does he have some sort of foolish conception of it, which is why it doesn't work? You know, I don't know if that's a loaded question. Yeah, Isaiah?
So I guess this pasuk is technically a question. Like the sentence is a question. So is there an answer to the question?
Okay, right. Is this a purely rhetorical question, or is there an answer? You know what? I didn't actually do this. I did not look at the pasuk after this to see if it's connected. Let's just see if we'll try that. Hold on, let me turn off the English. The next pasuk is Adam Chaser Lev Tokea Kaf. Oh, no, that's not the next pasuk. 17. Does not seem to have anything to do with this. That's about brotherhood and friendship. All right, fine. Okay. Hawkster crew.
So two questions. Number one, how are we defining the lave? What is lave, and how does not having a lave prevent you from being koneh chachma?
All right. So what is lave in this context? And then, as Avital pointed out, is it intellect, emotions? I like the meditation teacher Tara Brach uses the phrase heart mind, which I think is a good translation, but because I associate it with her, it sounds a little too woo-woo for the type of thing that Mishlei type does. But I like the sense of it because it's trying to say that there's a part of you that like is a nexus or like a unification of your intellect and your emotions. Values we've seen before. Something else. Sorry, I didn't hear the other part of your question. What was the other thing?
Yeah, and there's just a sub part of the first question before I get to what would be number three, is then basically defining chachma and defining leiv, and then how is it that not having leiv precludes you from getting chachma?
Right. How is it that not having leiv precludes you from acquiring chachma? And you know what I'm going to actually say? I'm going to say acquiring chachma, or at least purchasing it, right? Because perhaps there are other ways to get chachma, but he's trying to purchase it. So,
unrelated thing. When you were saying to take the pasuk literally, so that mean in this case, we're literally imagining somebody with a bunch of like money in their wallet, walking around to stores, like asking who's selling chachma, or like looking.
No, I was gonna say like so I'm saying take it as literally as possible, meaning like, for example, someone who's new to Mishlei would probably say something like, well, when it says money, it means you're spending your time and your energy. Like, no. Don't go to metaphor so fast. Like, I'm going to assume that there's some money involved. I'm going to assume that somehow there's a transaction and he's getting chachma in exchange. Now, is that paying a teacher? Is that, I'm going to go ahead and say an interpretation right now, just as a possibility, just to show you how far it goes. Not Ibn Kaspi, Yosef Kimchi says, Lama zeh mechir b'yaksil sheyikneh sfarim, buying books. Okay, so like I'm gonna assume that this is literal in the sense of like there's some transaction going on. That's right.
Maybe this is a legal follow-up question at this point, but do all mefarshim in situations like this take mechir literally, or are there mefarshim that will kind of take a more?
I mean, I didn't look at all of them, but the ones that I saw took it literally. But look, you can expand it and look, this is like let's do some basic Mishlei methodology here, right? In fact, did we talk about this when you were here for Shabbos? I think we did. That like someone, I think it was you, right? Asked me like, why do we do our own ideas first and then go to the meforshim? Mm-hmm. Right. So I mentioned, the style that we do here is we learn on our own and then we look at the meforshim. Okay. And one of two things is going to happen. Either we find that there are meforshim who say similar or identical to what we say, and then that reinforces that we were thinking in a good way. And if we see little differences, then we see, well, is the little difference significant or not? And if it means that their ideas are better, then why is it better? Or if it means that we're making a little mistake, why are we making a little mistake? And then if we come up with ideas, and none of the mefarshim say anything close to that. So either we're missing something big, and that's why none of them are saying it, or we came up with an original idea, which is possible. But with something like this, again, I'm not saying this is the case, but if all of them take mechir literally, then I would assume that like there's a reason why they're not taking it metaphorically, and like I would that would make me reluctant to say something metaphorical, not because it's a bad idea, but because it's not pshat. That's my own, so you got to like weigh, you weigh your intuition. So
right. It might be helpful,
again, I didn't see.
It's out of right order, but like in that sense, it might be helpful to know now if any mefarshim take
Well, that's
it
why I mean, I don't know if you noticed this. I went way overboard in giving you a nice menu of translations for mechir. Now, I didn't seek out whether they're doing it metaphorically. But yeah. You and I can do. Hold on, just one second. Give me 1 second. What I did do, I've been taking the lazy route, as you've noticed, of when I make the document, I translate the mefarshim, many of them with ChatGPT, but then when we do shiur, I translate it all myself. So I'm just going to ask the ChatGPT thread, did anyone translate mechir metaphorically, or did all of them take it as meaning something having to do with money or a transaction? We'll see. Ooh, I got 2 responses. Now I get to help OpenAI. Minority read metaphorically. No, see, they're not. Oh, okay. All right. So here's an example. Okay. Now, again, I do not think that this is. I don't think this is pshat. Okay, but apparently, who said this? Is this even true? Hold on. I'm not showing the screen because I don't want to accidentally show you interpretations yet. It said that the rid. Yeah, okay. So one of the mefarshim seemingly at least explicitly took it not literally, saying that it meant that he's learning shelo lishma, he's learning not for the right reasons. Okay, so minority. So there's your mat here. If you want to go for it, go for it. I would just look askance at you. Okay. Did you have a third question? No? Okay. All right, Alex, you're up.
I'm curious if the purchase of the Chochmah is for him specifically, or if it's like a kollel patron situation.
Okay, that's good. I'm gonna actually tack that onto the question of what is he trying to do? What is he trying to do? Is this purchase even for him, right? So, for example, not even a kollel situation, but like, when conceivably might you have a situation where you have someone who is a ksiel and he's trying to buy Chochmah for someone else? Like, what would be a very common situation? You could just say it. Anyone?
Send your kids to school.
Yeah, send your kids to school, right? I mean, not to say anything bad about parents, but like, I might have met 1 or 2 ksielim in my day that like they're paying for Chochmah for their kid, So maybe that's that. Okay, Rivki.
So I think some of the translations might address this, but I'm curious, like, who's the opposite end of the of the Chochmah?
Okay, so Mishlei methodology here. So most Mishlei psukim have opposites, and they contrast the chacham with the fool or the tzaddik with the rasha. And our approach is when we have a pasuk that only has one half, we have to infer the other half. So what would be the opposite of this? Now you would say, well, the opposite is a chacham, but like, what exactly does the chacham do? Like, does he not try to purchase? Does he purchase in a different way? Does he like work on his heart first? So like, what exactly is what is the decision? Yeah,
Wait,
Moshe.
Can I just clarify what I was asking?
Yeah.
I think I was asking more of, and maybe it's just not applicable, but I was asking more of like, who is he trying, not what type of chachma, but like, what is I guess maybe it is what type of chachma, but I was thinking like, yeah, maybe that's under that one.
So I feel like we covered that in the what does chachma mean in this context.
Then it might be what I was.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, Moshe.
I mean, I guess there's like I feel like a hava mina here that like you would think that a mechir in the hands of anyone would be intrinsically valuable to them, but there's something about the traits of a ksil or intrinsically something about a ksil that make it a question if having a mechir is valuable for them.
Okay, so let me put that right under the seals. Let me put this under what is the seal trying to do here. Okay, so what is the hava amina? I'm going to slightly broaden your question. Okay, so just the terminology of hava amina is what mistaken notion does this pasuk come to refute? Okay, so is it the notion that anyone can purchase Chochmah with a mechir? Oops, sorry, what did I just do? I control O. Right. Or is it specifically that someone like a Xiel can do that, or something else? I think those are the two like broad havaminas there. Okay, Isaiah.
What do we mean by ain? Like iron?
Right.
Like he intrinsically doesn't have this. He like hasn't developed it. Like what kind of iron?
Right. What does it mean that he doesn't have a lathe? Right. Intrinsically, he's not, or he's not working on it, or he wasn't raised with it, or his something about him is antithetical to it, or something else. Yeah. Okay. Hochster House.
Okay, so I don't know if this is an actual question or just I don't speak Hebrew. But the love ayin shouldn't like it just almost doesn't seem like it makes so much sense. Shouldn't it be like, and he has no heart or mind? Like, why is it specifically kind of
Yeah. I think
yeah.
I think you can translate it as he has no heart. I mean, maybe a better translation would be when there is no heart, Yeah, I'll put that as a question. I also don't know enough Hebrew to know if that's unusual or not.
Right. In my head, I was like, shouldn't it be ve'ein lo lave or something?
Right. So I'll tack this on here. And
Can I just jump in here as an Israeli?
Sure.
It is grammatically correct. You can absolutely say that.
Okay.
Velev ayin. Yeah, it's not so much in like a modern Hebrew, but yeah, it's yeah.
Okay. Why? So we can still ask, why does it express it that way? Why does it express it as I guess without the pronoun, right? He doesn't have, just as there is none, right? Without the pronoun. Yeah. Okay. Racheli.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask the same question, but also I'm wondering like why it's necessary, because you might think already like to just say what is the point of this mechir in the hand of a ksil to purchase chachma? Like maybe the fact that he's a ksil is already enough. Like why does it need to also?
Okay, that's a good question also. Okay, actually, you know what? That is a good question. I feel like we can put that under the question of about the precluding thing. I'm like missing this. What number didn't we say? I feel like I'm just blind to this question.
9.
Oh, 9. Thank you. Okay, right. So in other words, alternatively, why isn't it enough to just say when he is a ksil, or when a person doesn't have a lathe, right? So in other words, are these two reasons that are both necessary? All right, that's a good question. Ariel, before you ask your question, I heard an anecdote, which is that there was I read an anecdote online by someone who went to Gush, and said that I guess he was there when Rav Lichtenstein was there, and he said that there was this brilliant guy who was in shiur who would like vanish for like weeks, and one time he vanished for months, and then he came in, and Rav Lichtenstein just looked up and said Baruch Machai Hamesim, and then just went back. So I have to say, Baruch Machai Hamesim. I thought you were dead, but I'm glad that you're not. Welcome back.
I will take that as the greatest compliment you have ever given me in my entire life.
Okay.
And probably
we did miss you. We actually did miss you.
Yeah. So let's after that, I have to now, make sure I say something smart.
Yeah, don't worry. I was not calling you brilliant. I was just no, I'm just kidding.
Oh, really? Because that's exactly why I thought you were giving me that. Okay, so my question. I don't know if this was asked because I was just driving and trying to get my car out of the snow, but can this also be formulated as to why would someone sell this to a guy like this?
Oh, I don't think so. Oh, you mean why would someone else?
Meaning,
Okay,
like,
so right.
Yeah.
You could infer. Okay, let me just clarify where yes and where no. So the question is definitely liknos is to buy or to purchase or to acquire. So it's definitely saying what is money doing in the hand of this fool to buy Chochmah when he doesn't have a heart. Now, it could be that the answer is that no one's going to sell it to him. Okay.
Possible. The reason why I thought about that possibility was because I'm pretty sure there is a Pirkei Avos pasuk along these lines, and I know this is Rabbi Markowitz. Is like, if you give money to an individual who doesn't know what to do with it, it's like it's worse than making a bad investment.
Right.
Because
okay,
yeah. So my question is like, well, why would anyone even give this to him? I know it's a business. Okay, you want to sell something to him, but like,
yeah,
what does that really mean?
Yeah. Okay. That's a good question here. I'm gonna yeah. Hold on, just 1 second. I'm just trying to think if I should fold this into another question. I actually am gonna put this in another question here. Is like, to what extent is this a problem exclusively with him? And to what extent is it due to people reacting to him? For example, nobody will sell him the Chochmah. Yeah, all right, that's a clever read.
I think Rivki has something.
Yeah, Rivki.
Yeah, I think like what it sounded like he was, what he was starting to say. I think that's like what I was trying to get at, and then like Debbie was talking, so I got distracted. But yeah, like I was kind of saying, not like what is the Chochmah, but like what is like the Chacham. I'm assuming it would be a Chacham, so it was more like what is the Chacham's role, which is I feel like kind of what Ariel.
Yeah, so I think let's just broaden this question even more. I guess is are there other relevant parties in this decision-making scenario? Okay. For example, the one who he is purchasing from. Yeah. Okay. Racheli?
So my question is like, doesn't the seal have to start somewhere to becoming a chacham? So like, if you're gonna say like this is a bad idea because you don't have a mind or whatever, like where do you start? What's the other path that you would begin to go?
Yeah. So what's the poor seal supposed to do?
Basically.
Yeah. Right. Like where can he start? Yeah. Okay. Now, here's the thing. I feel like, did we talk about this last week? I'll say it again. I'm not saying this to answer your question, but generally speaking, from the pshat of Mishlei, but certainly from Rabbeinu Yonah, Ksil is not someone who Mishlei talks to because he can't he's not a good audience for Mishlei. Okay. So generally speaking, we don't really address the Ksil, and the type of Ksil who actually can get started is going to have to somehow surmount his Ksil quality. Yeah, Racheli?
Could you give like a short example of like what a Ksil would look like?
Yeah. So I was thinking about doing that before we start thinking about ideas, to give 2 working definitions of a Ksil, which I will do. So just make sure I don't forget. Yeah, Alex? Oh, sorry. Hawkstar household.
Sorry, they go first.
Yeah.
Nadia, just to follow up on Racheli's question, even according to Rabbeinu Yonah, who's saying that like we're not talking to a Ksil, people become chacham somehow. So even if Mishlei is talking to it, it's still, the question still stands of how is it ever possible to become a chacham if a ksil being like using a mechir isn't an effective way?
Okay, right. So I think I think that is a broader question than this pasuk is going to address, but I will modify the question and say, where can a ksil get chochmah if this isn't going to work? Okay,
Right.
and maybe we'll find an answer to that, but I do think it's a broader question.
Got it.
Yeah. Alex.
I'm curious who this rhetorical question is for, if like the
Yeah.
ksil isn't normally
Okay,
the
that's a
audience.
good that's a great question. Okay. Who is the audience of this pasuk and the rhetorical question? Question, you know, like if this is true, then the ksil won't get this, right? Might not get this. Okay. In other words, like if you know, seemingly he has some chochmah problem. And this is chochmah, so maybe he can't get this. You know. So then who are we talking to? Yeah, and that's another support for maybe Ariel's approach, which is that maybe we're talking to people who are chochmah merchants. You know, and you know, pointing out something to them about their customers. Yeah, Stephanie.
What does it mean to be in possession of wisdom? Because let's say the other side of the pasuk would be, if it was in the hand of a chacham, then the result would be different, even though they're buying the same thing. So
Okay.
it kind of tells you something intrinsically about how it is possessed, like for you to gain the benefit of it.
Okay. So, all right, let me think how I want to ask that. Okay, I'm trying to decide whether this is one question or two questions. So let me try one question first, which is under the question of what is the chochmah in this context. Like what I'm gonna say it like this. What would it mean for a ksil to get chochmah as opposed to a chacham getting chochmah? Okay, in other words, there's two considerations: who you are and what you're getting. And we want to know what he is or is not getting. Does that capture part of your question?
Yeah, I think it does.
Okay. Now, what's the other part? I feel like there was another part also.
What was it? I think it captures most of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. If you think of another part that I'm not capturing, you can ask it again. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Isaiah.
Yeah. Assuming this is a rhetorical question, then why phrase it that way versus just stating it as a statement? There is no point, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. So, we got a lot of questions here. Okay. So, assuming this is a rhetorical question, why state it that way instead of as a statement, i.e., typical Mishlei? Okay. Hochster home.
Okay, I think it's a little bit similar, but kind of is what this pasuk addressing, is it the actual question of like why do like seals like have this thing when they don't have like a brain or a mind or a heart? Or is it like kind of like when there's a Q&A and someone asks a question, but the question that they're asking is not really the question being said, but it's like something beneath.
Right. So is it addressing this very question? You know, why would he do this?
Like it almost sounds like someone's just frustrated. Like
yeah.
Oh,
what are you doing? Yeah. Is this addressing a different subject, but expressing it as a genuine question? Yeah. All right. That's a good question also. Yeah, Moshe? Moshe? Oh.
I don't really know the question, but like, you hear me?
Yeah, you're. I think you're on a little bit of a delay.
I don't really know. I guess I'm kind of sorry about that. I guess like I don't know. Maybe there's something that's like not like intrinsic about like ksil, or there's like a personality that the ksil like would do, but like there's something about like a ksil with mechir would lead to doing something about like buying chochmah instead of like going about it in the proper way. So I feel like I don't know, like don't we have to like answer like why buying chochmah is intrinsically bad? if that's a
okay. So yeah, let's express that question over with the what is he trying to do, which is like what do we say about this this purchasing Chochmah in general, not for a Ksiel, right? Is it automatically good? Is it yeah, I guess like yeah, just let's just say what do we say about it? Yeah, because that's all needs to be explained. Yeah, Rookie.
Yeah, I don't think this is like as central of a question necessarily, but I don't know if we address the biyad, like as opposed, is that just like
Oh
letting him
yeah,
know
that's
that
true
it's like
also.
in his possession, or is
Right.
there like something more about that lashon there?
Okay, yeah. So uh uh is there any significance to the characterization of the mechir being in the hand of Ixiel, or is that just the expression? Yeah. Okay, I think that is a lot of questions. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to import the questions. Actually, let me just recopy and paste the translation. I'm going to import the questions into the chat. Then I'm going to give you a couple of working definitions of Xeal for those who need a place to start. But everyone else should keep in mind that maybe we'll discover a new definition here. Hold on just a second. This is frustrating me as it always does. I need to just change all the numbers. 7, 8, 9, and 10, and 11, and 12. And then we'll take our thinking minute as we usually do. Hold on, I just gotta do one more shipment. Oh, we just made it. We just made it, guys. Got it in with the character limits. 14, 15.
I have a
6.
request.
Yeah.
Can we time our thinking minute so it's really a full minute?
Oh, okay, sure. Okay. All right, so let me give you 3 working definitions of Xeal. Okay, 2 are the ones that we usually do, and then 1 is going to be a new one. Okay, so working definitions of Xeal. So the first one is my go-to definition. So this is mine, which is someone who stubbornly assumes or expects, I should say, expects reality to automatically line up with his desires. Okay, that was my go-to definition mostly from Mishlei 14:16 is where I first saw it. But yeah, so then there's Rabbeinu Yonah, we call it a veteran pleasure seeker. Okay, so someone who has built his life around seeking immediate pleasure to such an extent that he is totally addicted, and there's little hope of change. Okay, and then the third one I actually reserved up here in case we needed it, the Malbim, who says someone who, it's the Malbim, someone who despises Chochmah because of his desires. Now that's as opposed to, for example, someone who opposes it, I don't know, because of thinking or because he's opposed to like, or let's say like he's a skeptic. I know Malbim has a lot of people who are skeptics here. Okay, so we're going to put this in the chat. All right, so now we have a thinking minute. I'm not going to put the timer on the screen because some people that'll make nervous. Okay, so we're going to have a thinking minute starting now. Okay. That was a full minute. Thank you, Avital, for starting that. And feel free to remind me in the future. Okay, Rifki, you're up.
Yeah, love that innovation, Avital. I feel like I'm always like, I have to think of something. So, but yeah, I don't know, like, it's not such like a crazy idea. I think it's like pretty like shot.
Okay.
But yeah, I was thinking that the audience is the Chacham here, or whoever he may be buying Chochmah from. And I think like the thought, there's two sides to the thought that I was thinking the Chacham might have. One is that the Chacham, we know, not on the same level of it's as a Tzaddik, but he does want what's good for the system. So I think in the Chacham's mind, like interacting with a Ksil, if you think the Ksil wants Chochmah, would be an appealing thing.
Right.
So I think from that perspective, the Chacham would be excited by that, and he'd be like, "Oh, like that's great." And then on top of that, the other thing I was thinking was, I don't have a great answer as to why it's Bechir and not Kesef, but clearly it's indicating something with that, like some level of, benefit, right? And so I think in addition to wanting to actually genuinely help the Ksil, we're also getting this whatever payment situation might be. So then there's that added addition of like, oh, like, wow, like not only can I help, but I'll also benefit myself, right? And I was thinking a lot about that with like, your example with parents and kids. That like you like, oh, like I can change the parent, and like it's gonna sound really pessimistic, but I think that it's really hard. Not that it's impossible, but I think that like honestly, like the chances of successfully changing, someone's ways that is a Ksil is much lower than you might realize.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's a good starting point, which I think could branch off into a lot of stuff. I saw the party symbol. I just want to say one thing, which is that I think that there is also a mistake that a chacham can make, which is that Mishlei says that Ksilim hate chachma, or they hate knowledge, right? But this guy clearly wants it. So that's an in. And something about the main point of the pasuk is going to have to be that no. Even when he wants it, then it's not going to work out, or it's not going to be good, or whatever. So that's what we have to figure out. So I think this is a good like base of operations. Okay.
I think that's why it says like the lave ain, like to really emphasize that point.
It's like, something internal to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay, good. All right. All right, Hochster huddle.
Yeah, so I was just kind of thinking very similar to Rifki, and I was thinking that the reason for it being mechir is that it is an exchange, and therefore even if you're like, hey, like it's kind of dumb that he's getting this, like he's trying to like buy wisdom where it's not going to work, but that there's something that you can get out of it, whether that means, let's say, trying to give over something that you benefit from, let's say, reiterating Chochmah, or that you actually get something in this exchange.
Right. Maybe the Chacham also is tempted because he benefits from teaching, even if the student can't get it. Yeah. Also, I just want to write what I said, which is that perhaps the Chacham thinks, that usually Ksilim aren't open to Chochmah, but this guy clearly is. Okay, good. So then the question we have to ask on top of this is, what is the second half implying then, right? About like, so now we have a clear idea of the audience. Now, those who are next, you don't have to feel pressure to work into this approach, but if you are working into this approach, just let me know so I know where to like position my mind. Okay, Ariel.
Yeah, I might be working into that approach.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. Well, I might be able to answer this question, but I don't know. I don't want to tie myself down to.
That's fine. I'll just put you underneath here.
So
yeah.
I want to start off with like the analogy that I started with earlier, asking my question. Like, I think that like, look, money, giving money to someone who doesn't know how to use it is equivalent to giving chachma to a ksil who doesn't know how to use chachma. And I think that it could be dangerous on many levels. For one, like he can take the chachma and that he has, and he can further his foolishness with it. It could cause him destruction. It could cause other people destruction. That's one. And I think the main, I want to say, I don't know, maybe I was in maybe the main point is that like it's also a very bad reflection on the chachma, on the chacham, because let's say he is teaching this guy knowledge, and like the reality is like if it's tied back to him, he himself could lose his reputation,
right?
And that's not ideal.
Yeah, I do feel like I have to quote a halacha here. Anyone know what halacha I'm going to quote?
You shouldn't teach people.
Yeah. Okay, good. So this is a halacha which you could say fortunately or unfortunately we do not practice nowadays. Okay. And it's even a question, I think, about how the Rambam paskins this way, because it seems like Gemara does not hold this way. So the halacha is Ein melamdin divrei Torah ela letalmid hagun. We only teach Torah to a talmid who is hagun is like proper. Na'ed b'masav, either someone who is beautiful in their actions, o latam, or to a tam, which is someone who is like Rabbi Moskowitz says, like evenly keeled, someone who does not have like blemishes, okay, in their character. Aval im hayholech b'derech lo tova, but if he's following a bad path, machzirin oso lemutav, we bring him back to the good. Umanhigin oso b'derech yishara, and we habituate him in this upright path. Ubotkin oso, and we test him. Okay, I don't know what that test looks like. The achar kach machnisin oso the base of midrash u'malamdin oso. Then we bring him into the base midrash and we teach him. By the way, halachically, this is only in terms of allowing people to learn in the base midrash. This is not a halacha restriction on teaching one-on-one. Okay, so about who we admit into the base midrash. Amr chachamim, the chachamim say, Kol hashone l'tamid she'eno hagun ki'ilu zarach even l'merkulis. Anyone who teaches a student who's not proper, it is as if he threw a stone to Merculus, and that was a type of avodah zara that they would worship by throwing stones at it. Shneimar, as it says, kitzur evan b'margema kein nos l'ksil kavod. Like someone who puts a stone into a sling, so is one who gives honor to a fool. Being kavod ela Torah, and there's no honor except Torah. Shneimar, as it says, kavod chachamim yinchalo. Chachamim will inherit kavod. Now, the reason why I bring it up is because when you first read this halacha, you might think that the main issue is that it's going to be bad for the student, but the fact that he puts it in terms of kavod means that it blemishes. It's bad for Torah. So I think like the second part of what Ariel was saying there, that this could be bad for the Chacham or it could be bad for the Chochmah itself. Again, let's say you have a Mishlei class and like present company accepted, someone comes to the class who's like a real like scoundrel, and people know that they go to the Mishlei class, and then they say like this guy goes to the Mishlei class and like this is the type of life that he lives. It's bad for the reputation of Chochmah and could be bad for other people as well. Yeah. Okay, good. I think those are two good approaches here, both in terms of it being bad for the person and being bad for the Chochmah itself. And I do think that this could fit into Rivki and Avital's approach, or it could be different. So I think that's good place to be. Okay, Racheli.
Okay, I feel like mine is pretty short, but I think it's talking about like a ksil who wants to be a student of Torah, and you have to ask like why. And I'm saying Torah because I feel like Chochmah and Torah are often like synonymous.
Okay.
You have to ask like where is he coming from, and because he's a ksil, his motivations are to meet his desires, or he's only motivated by pleasure seeking. And basically, the core of the message is that as soon as you take Chochmah and you use it only to get pleasure or towards that end, it ceases to be Chochmah. And so this is also a message for any student who's maybe not a ksil all the time, but who thinks like, oh, I'm going to use Torah or wisdom or learning from someone in order to just achieve my own ends and not to approach it like for its proper purpose or for its own sake. So don't do that because it loses its value.
Okay, so I'm going to object, not to invalidate your idea, but to force you to qualify it, okay? Because I gave a whole shiur last night called Shlomo Soloveitchik and Slytherin, in which I argued that the exact approach that Shlomo HaMelech does use to get people to be involved in Chochmah is by saying it's going to help you further your own desires. And we see that he does that throughout Mishlei. And if you want proof, then you can listen to the shiur, but I think you've been in Mishlei long enough to know that. So the way that I think you need to qualify your idea is, it's not that if you use Chochmah to get your desires, then that is gonna like corrupt the Chochmah or like make it not Chochmah. It's that specifically if a pleasure addict or whichever the definitions of ksil you want to go with, like what is it about these any of these people that's going to distort the Chochmah itself?
Well, I mean the addicted quality means that there's no real like evolution of.
Okay. So according to Rabbeinu Yonah's definition, the addictive or the addict's quality will prevent the ksil from developing.
Right, because obviously Shlomo's point is not to say like you stay that way. It's a starting
right. Exactly, it's a starting point, right? Okay, so that's according to Rabbeinu Yonah. I think we could go with the other two definitions as well. You want to give it a try? Not to put you on the spot. Anyone want to give it a try according to Racheli's idea with the other definitions of ksil? So I think according to the Malbim, there will inevitably be clashes and Torah will lose out. In other words, even if the ksil genuinely wants Chochmah, Torah will come in, it will clash with his desires. You can't just be a Torah observant Jew and do whatever you want. And if you're not talking about Torah, if you're just talking about Chochmah, there's going to be a clash. Like, you're going to like following Chochmah as long as it's serving you, but then when it's not serving you, you're not going to like it, and now you're going to be inconsistent, and you're going to distort the Chochmah because you're going to try to apply it selectively, right? So it's going to end up with a contradiction, and that's going to invalidate the Chochmah. And then according to my definition, the ksil, I mean, it's very similar to the ksil, will always try to warp, features of reality he doesn't like to conform with the way he wants things to be, and that's not Chochmah. Yeah. Okay, good.
Also, just for what you just said, like the idea of not trying to not trying to like make Torah like a mirror of our stuff, like specifically with Torah.
Right. Yeah. By the way, there's another pasuk that pairs well with that, which is in 18:2. Let's see if that's right. Lo yachputz ksil betvuna ki im bihizgalos libo. A ksil only desires does not desire understanding, but only in revealing his heart or revealing his essence, which a lot of the meforshim say basically that like he only is interested in understanding when it's furthering his own desires or when it's showing off what he knows, some sort of self-serving, egocentrically self-serving motive here. Okay, let's go. Let's keep it moving. We're a lot of people tonight here who have ideas. Alex, you're up.
So my idea one goes with your definition of ksil, someone who wants reality to meet up with their desires in a stubbornly foolish way. And I was thinking that this is a specific kind of ksil, one whose desires are to be perceived as intelligent and as a chacham. And I think the audience is anyone who could come across this person, not necessarily the mechir. And kind of the example I had in my head is the person who, pays for an Ivy League education or like a top yeshiva, right? The person who surrounds himself with like a library of Sfarim and books, right?
Okay.
From the outside, as an observer, you may assume that means someone is a chacham, right? But this rhetorical question is kind of guarding you against that. Like, no, look at the person's intention and how they're interacting with the chochmah they're purchasing. Are they a ksil who wants to be perceived as intelligent, or are they someone actually engaging with the things they're purchasing?
Yeah, that's nice. That's a nice idea that they've allegedly purchased and ignore the trappings. Okay, that's a good idea. I feel like I have seen that in the meforshim here. Again, I haven't seen all the meforshim here, but I feel like we're going to see that when we look at the meforshim. Yeah, okay, that's really good. And I think this is just to comment on the pasuk that I just quoted, combined with this, is that is a motive that Ksilim have, is they want pleasure, and one of the pleasures is kavod, and one of the greatest types of kavod is looking like you're intelligent. So he's going to want to look the part, but again, in very Mishleic fashion, it's not going to work if you look closely, because you're going to see that he's not actually like, he's not actually like living the, he's talking the talk. He's not, well, he may not even be able to talk the talk. He's furnishing his house, he has the degree, but he's not actually like living the Chochmah. Okay, that's good. So, and I like how you say it's a warning to people who interact with a person like that, because you could be fooled. Yeah. Okay, hold on. I wanted to say this also. Prestigious institution. Okay, yeah. Okay, Isaiah.
Okay, yeah. So I was thinking a little bit differently, that maybe this is not advice for an actual ksil, but for like maybe just like a unspecified person, that if you're going to seek Chochmah, if you're like trying to purchase Chochmah, and you don't have like the either like mental capacity to understand what you're going to be purchasing, or you don't have like the headspace to understand it right now when you're purchasing it, and like there's no point in you doing it. It's like it's a foolish decision to do that. So you shouldn't waste your money on some knowledge that isn't going to, like, lave is a prerequisite for understanding for Chochmah that you purchase.
Okay,
so
lave is a prerequisite for the Chochmah you purchase. So this is really an idea about Chochmah, I think, right? More so than about the Ksil. I think the approaches we've had so far. Really
I guess.
This is an idea about Chochmah that it. I'm gonna kind of put words into your mouth just to try to like verbalize the fantasy. It's not magic, right? Like you have to be a recipient. In fact, this actually addresses Racheli's question about where do you start. So this is going to drive you crazy, Racheli, in a bad way. In Parshas Kisisa, Re'ei Karasi B'Shem. Yeah. So this is by the builders of the Mishkan. So it says, "Va'ani hine nasati ito es aholia ben achismak lamataydan uvalev kol chacham lev nasati chachma." And in the heart of anyone who is wise of heart, I have given chachma. So what do Chazal say? Now I don't know where Chazal say this, but let's look at the Metzudas. Let's look at the Torah Tamima. Let's see if he quotes it. Not the Rabag is the one who I saw it in, so we'll look there in a second. Yeah, okay. It's in Brachos Nun Hey Amud Aleph. Sorry. Yeah. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu nosein chachma, ela lemi sheyesh bo chachma. God only gives chachma to someone who has chachma. Shneimar, as it says in Sefer Daniel, Yahev chachmasa lechakimin umanda al liyad ebina. God gives wisdom to those who are wise and knowledge to those who know understanding. Who know understanding. And then it quotes our pasuk as well, So that doesn't answer your question really, but like it's just like kind of like a Zen koan here. That was the proper reaction. So you have to be a recipient to receive. So the interesting thing then is that my only critique of this, Isaiah, is that okay, it's not it's not an invalidating critique. So according to you, it's using the ksil as just an example. Like obviously we're not talking about a ksil because we know that a ksil can't get a chachma. But if you look at the ksil and you ask why can't he get chachma even when he wants it, it's because his lave is not, does not lend itself to receiving it. So if you find yourself in a position like that, it's just as foolish for you to try to get chachma. Is that a good way to read the pasuk?
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So one more question as a follow-up. What would be the consequence if you tried nevertheless? Just to talk it out.
Well, I was thinking like you don't get the chachma and you wasted your money.
Right. First, you wasted your money and didn't get the chachma. Okay. I think second is I think there is a chance you'll distort it. Okay. For example, like let's say, for example, I'm going to make up two kinds of examples here. If you are involved in, I don't know, like some very, very technical, high stakes area of hard science, like chemistry, and like, or let's say you're in pharmacy school or whatever, and you don't have the ability to understand what you're doing, you're going to end up like harming people, and then also if you're not in the emotional state or the life state to have it, like let's say you are going through a horrible relationship like breakup, but you're also trying to train to be a life coach, at the same time. Like maybe you're not really in the mental state to like focus on how to best help other people because it's all colored by your own mind right now. So like you might end up distorting it. And then third, I want to say like this is a much more abstract thing, was like the nature of like being a finite being who exists in time is that sometimes you only get one opportunity. So save it for when it's actually likely to succeed. Okay. So for example, there are people who really should not come to yeshiva right after high school. There are certain people who I think need to like mature and like maybe get a job and like maybe get world experience. And then when they come to yeshiva, they'll make the most of it, you know? And if they try going to yeshiva, they would just waste their year. So like the reality is like, it'd be nice to say, well, if you had infinite time, then you should just give it another try. But like, we don't have infinite time and resources, you know? So I think that'd be good, another good example here. Racheli says in the chat, this brought up a question for me. Is there any time where the Ksil has money and uses it to his actual benefit? Isn't everything he spends on a waste? Yeah, that's probably true. We'll have to see other psukim like that, but it stands to reason that you're right. Okay, Stephanie, you're up.
Okay, so I don't know if it's adding on to it, but I also think it's not talking to a specific person like a chacham or a ksil. I think it's talking to just you, the reader, because sometimes you don't know yourself if you're the chacham or the ksil. And it's a warning to say that if you want to access wisdom that will actually help you in life, you don't want to come at it with the intentions of a fool, because a fool will try to find things that go in line with their reality, like confirmation bias, and that's knowledge that won't help them in the end.
Okay, good. So you're answering the question I was going to ask, is if you stopped here, I would say, well, then what are you supposed to do? Like, if you don't know, and I was going to answer and say, well, talk to someone who can diagnose you and who can help you. But you gave a better answer, or I mean, not a better answer. It's a complimentary answer, which is that hopefully by the time you get to chapter 17 in Mishlei, then like or at least by the time you get to this pasuk, you know certain traits of a ksil. Maybe you saw these the cheat codes here, you know, and like you should know that, you know, let's put it this way, to the extent that you're approaching it with the qualities of a ksil, you will not be successful in it, and you need to work on those qualities before you can tackle Chochmah.
Also, like in addition, in that case, you would think, why is it not just talking about someone who searches for knowledge? Why is it someone who's purchasing knowledge?
Okay, that's a good question.
I think it's because when you buy something, you're more selective about it. And so you might be clouded by the biases you have because you feel like you are limited. But when you're searching for knowledge, you should not see it as something that's like a limited resource and only buy into one thing. You should look into many different sources so that you can see a whole picture. And when you're buying something, it's hard to do that.
All right, that's selective when shopping for Chochmah. Yeah, that question, I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I'm not willing to say that that's what the pasuk is telling us. It is a good question, though, why the pasuk, according to you, would focus specifically on buying it, and whether that is dependent on another idea, or if we can get an idea out of your interpretation with that. The reason why I'm not so, I want to think about that a little bit more. But if we can get an answer to that question that is more closely, like organically emergent from your idea, which is what you're trying to do. But yeah, I think there's potential there. I'm not seeing it in that particular one. Okay. So you have something else?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right, good. All right, good idea. Okay, next is the Hochster Homies.
All right. So Chochmah isn't just a way to reach an ends in terms of getting, like in the Slytherinian way of getting what you want from it. It's also something that's important in the sense that it shapes a person's like personality and their worldview, and their morals and their midos and all of that stuff. So if someone's a ksil, who's like the person who's seeking pleasure, and he learns Chochmah, he's going to learn it solely from the perspective of what does this get for me for my pleasure-seeking ends. So for him, he won't be able to actually get the most from Chochmah and to be able to really internalize it, and he'll misunderstand it and he'll misuse it. Like just an example that I thought of is if someone's like a serial womanizer and then they read Chochmah about that it's important to, you know, like give women respect. So for him, he might understand that I'll be more successful in my womanizing if I give women
right. That's a good example.
He's misunderstanding the Chochmah and just appropriating it for his use and kind of missing what it's actually trying to do.
Okay. Yeah. So the reason why I stopped writing it out is, to me, I that sounds like exactly like the idea that we had with Racheli. Which I think is a great example. And I think you did add the fact that it's not just a means to an end, whereas the Ksil can only relate to it that way. But I think it is paired with Racheli's idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm just not writing any more of that because I think we wrote it out here pretty well. Unless I have something.
It was a second hand from the Hofstra home.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So I was actually thinking about like a couple of questions that came to mind, like from my Mishlei muscles.
That's a good term. Yeah.
Yeah. Alliteration for the win. It was who's the audience, and then also like I was trying to figure out opposites, just because that's where my brain like naturally goes in terms of opposites of the pasuk. And I was like wondering what if we actually move the question mark from the end of, I don't know if we're allowed to do this, so careful if you start typing, but like to move the question mark from the end of the pasuk kind of to the middle of like lama ze mechir biyad ksil question mark, and then the answer is liknos chochmah v'lev ayin. And the way that I'm reading that was like somebody asking like, why would a ksil be like wanting to buy chochmah? And like this could be a precaution to, let's say, the layperson, as like somebody who might be following in the way of a ksil, like somebody who sees a ksil who's like, oh look, they're doing something in the way of chochmah, they're buying chochmah. I'm also thinking of chochmah as like, you can't really buy the chochmah itself, but rather a tool of chochmah. So like, oh, they're buying a tool of chochmah, like I should follow them, but it's saying no, like no chochmah v'lev ayin, they don't have the intention. I'm thinking of lev ayin as like intention. And like I think that like that's kind of where we get like a big difference. Like that could go with Yetzi's like analogy of a womanizer, right? Like somebody who's going to be trying to give respect to women, but they're not going to have the intention. They're not going to get the actual chochmah of that idea, as opposed to they're going to be like getting the ksilified version.
Okay, somewhere along the line, I lost you. And so tell me again how you're reading the pasuk. Lama ze mechir biyad ksil is a question.
Yeah, that's the question mark goes there.
And then the answer is to buy chochmah without a heart.
Yeah, but instead of without a heart, we're saying like to buy chochmah without intention.
Without the right intent? Okay, without intention. Without the right intention, you're saying, right?
No, I would say without intention. Like,
well, I mean, he has to have some intention, right?
Okay, fine. Fair. I'll give you that.
No, I mean, no, I'm trying to understand, but so without, okay, well, I'll say without intention, like kavanas alev. Okay, that works linguistically. Okay, so now, okay, so now, and so who's the audience?
I would say the audience is a layperson who would be easily influenced to follow the ways of Iksil.
Okay, influenced to follow the ways of Iksil. And then what is this saying?
What is what saying?
What is the pasuk saying? What is the idea?
Oh, and it's saying like it's a precautionary tale. Like it might look like the Ksil is actually doing something in a way of Chochmah, maybe follow him, but Ksil inherently is not having the correct intention, and that's the difference.
Okay, so it might look like the Ksil is actually pursuing Chochmah. Racheli adds in the chat without intention of using it properly. I'm going to put it properly there. Okay, yeah, I think that's right. That's what you meant when you said a Chochmah tool, right, Marianne?
Yeah.
Okay, without pursue is actually pursuing Chochmah. But the pasuk is telling you to look at the intention, not the pursuit, the external pursuit.
Yeah, like you can think of it as like the Ksil buying the tool, but not knowing how to actually use the tool.
Okay. Not knowing how to use it. I feel like that fits in really well with the halacha that we read about teaching a student who's not proper. Again, it's like Torah is good. So like this person's coming to the base midrash. So obviously I should teach them Torah, but like it's not so simple that that's going to be that's good. You can't define it based on the outside. Okay. Moshe, you're up.
Yeah, this might be tapping into what others have said already, but perhaps like the audience is a person who has a misunderstanding of what Chochmah is as a concept, and they ascribe an essentialist or a sort of metaphysical quality to what Chochmah is, and misunderstands what it is, and assumes that somehow having it is going to make you better intrinsically, and that like the subject of who is getting Chochmah and the acquisition of how one gets Chochmah is irrelevant. Almost like there's Chochmah points, and you can have more of it or less of it. You know, it kind of reminds me, and like when it says like, oh, to like purchase Chochmah, when I kind of read that, it makes me think of like it's saying it as like the most extreme, like black and white example of like, okay, like how do you get Chochmah? Oh, you could be a rich person and you just get money. You know, press F to get Chochmah. So like,
right.
You know,
okay. So that's really good. So I'm going to interject because this was my interpretation as well. Okay. So this is, I'm just going to add to this here, which is that like the mistake is to think that Chochmah is like a possession you can instantly acquire. Okay. You know, and the one who is most prone to thinking this is a Ksil. And the way I'm learning it is like, it's not even, I do think that there are scenarios where Ksil might try to do this, but I think the Ksil, just a Ksil who is fixated on immediate pleasure and on reality bending to their will. Okay. In truth, you need, you know, Chochmah requires a development, and definitively cannot be instantly acquired. I'm not really saying it so eloquently, but like you know, I referenced it jokingly earlier, but like the scene in The Matrix, which I know is an old movie now, where like he just downloads kung fu. Like the reason why that's such a cool scene is because we all know that no matter how athletic you are, and no matter how smart you are, you can't just instantaneously become a martial arts master. And it's impossible. Like we recognize that you need to practice it and have techniques and understanding of theory and all this other stuff. So like, but people do relate to Chochmah this way, that I can just like put in my time and like become a Chacham, you know, or like magically, like an example of this is, unfortunately, like I can magically do Daf Yomi, or spend 10 years in the mirror and become a Talmid Chacham, you know. And so the answer is you could do a lot of Daf Yomi, you could spend a lot of time in the mirror, and if you don't do it intelligently, you're going to be a dumb person who's like wasted a lot of time learning Gemara, you know. Like just you there's no instant, there's no autopilot or magic pill, you know. So that's I think it's not exactly the same thing as what Moshe's saying, but like I think it's like it's this magic fantasy that I could just like buy it and then get it. And I think Ksil is prone to that. But I think that the audience is beyond just Ksil. I think people who are not Ksilim who try to get Chochmah also think that they could just like master it in just like a very little while, just by putting in the time or putting in the money or whatever. Yeah. All right. Nice idea. All right, Seth.
Oh, can I actually?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
I kind of had a different direction with it.
Sure. Yeah.
It was similar though. I mean, and I think, but like perhaps like the pasuk's also saying that like not only misunderstanding it, you're also kind of like distorting what Chochmah is for Kasils also. And not only are you like rooting for yourself, but you're kind of like encouraging other Ksilim to like follow in your footsteps, because they will look at it and see you kind of ascribing these essentialist qualities and take like the short end of the stick. So it's not even like the Kasil's fault that they're doing that. That's your fault. Right. Or the person that's doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think a good example of this also is like, you know, I remember a friend of mine became an ordained minister by doing some online program just for the heck of it, you know, and and there are places where you can get like cheap college degrees, you know, like it cheapens the area of knowledge if you like go about acting as though you could just purchase it, you know, like that's not what it is, you know. You can't just purchase the knowledge, and it's ruining it for other people also. Yeah, that's a good point. And that would be another reason why this might be another reason why it's talking as if to Ixiel, even though we don't have a hope of changing Ixiel. In other words, like it's bad for Xelim to do this because they're gonna ruin it for other people. Okay, Seth.
Okay, some linguistic. Sorry.
One second.
Un momento.
Okay.
Okay, go.
Okay, can we try this now? All right. The Klayot are the seat of emotion. I like to deal with linguistics of the ancient world. So our emotions are not in our heart as we think of it. It's in our Klayot, in our kidneys. And the seat of intelligence is in the lev. So when they're talking about lev here, they're talking about the seat of intelligence. And I also like to focus on some of the other words here. Liknot isn't always to buy, it's to acquire. There's an acquisition here. So I read this sentence more in line of what is the value in the hands of the Ksil to acquire knowledge if he doesn't have the intelligence to use it properly. And the audience, I guess, would be just the reader looking and analyzing the world of the Ksil.
Right. Okay, so you're saying so just say the way that you're reading the pasuk one more time. Just say the way that you're reading the pasuk one more time.
Sorry. Okay, let me try this again. Okay, so I read it not as a purchase and a very literal translation of those words, but more in the poetic, maybe a poetic sense, is what is the value in the hands of this fool or the ksil to acquire knowledge if he doesn't have the intelligence, the lev, to use it properly.
Okay. Okay. All right, good. So that I think reminds me, I'm just gonna again, I like sorting them by the ones that they're similar to. I thought we had one that was similar to this. If not, then I'm imagining it. Okay, maybe this is its own idea then. All right, fine. Yeah. Okay, let me just think about this for one more second here. So then who is this for then?
Okay, so this would be to the reader who is looking at the world and analyzing the world and seeing what's out there and checking, okay, this is a smart person, this is a ksil, and the ksil is the guy you don't want to be.
Okay. All right, who is being told not to be like the ksil in his own pursuit of Chochmah. Okay. Okay, good. Okay. Avital group. I didn't have another H alliteration.
Well, I had an idea similar to what you and Moshe were saying.
Okay.
It's just a little bit of a different spin on it, that the ksil is kind of viewing Chochmah as almost like, the type of person who's like going to memorize a lot of wise saying or wise quotes, but not really focus on actually understanding and internalizing it, because their conception of what Chochmah is like, oh, I know all these things by heart, now I'm wise. Instead of actually internalizing it and thinking about it and seeing what's behind it, being like and they're missing that. So even though they're trying to Koneh Chochmah, it's like it's a commodity to buy and sell, they're viewing it incorrectly, which doesn't allow them to actually interact.
Okay. So of all the interpretations that we had tonight, I think that one fits in most with the way that at least Rashi uses Chochmah in Mishlei, which is Rashi early on in Mishlei says, I know I've quoted this before. Hold on. Rashi said, wait, this is Telem. Rashi says, Yishma Chacham Yosef Lecha is Chacham is Zeb Bal Shmua. This is a person who has received knowledge, like it's verbal knowledge. So Chochmah is something that you can memorize, and that's exactly the point here. Is that you can even, maybe you could read it, that you could even acquire it, but you're not going to understand it, or it's not going to be internalized. So like it doesn't really do anything good. It's like Rabbi Moskowitz always used to quote this Gemara. I just don't remember what the Gemara is of, like, it's like a donkey carrying books, like he might be carrying a lot of books, but it doesn't really do the donkey any good, yeah. Okay,
Can I
Stephanie.
ask
Oh, sure. Yeah.
question on that clump?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like one specific thing that I feel like maybe I'm just not understanding.
Sure.
So I get the general clump, but then my question is on like when you wrote like who and how you get it is irrelevant. Can you like expand on that? Because I feel like that doesn't fit with my understanding of Chochmah.
Oh, no, meaning I think this is part of the mistake. Meaning like he thinks that who and how you get it is irrelevant.
Yeah,
But
so I
really,
think you're saying it is relevant.
I'm saying it is relevant. Yeah, I'm saying that if you are a Ksiel in any of the three definitions that we had, you're not going to be able to get Chochmah. For the three reasons that we said that we spelled out with Racheli's thing is that if you whatever you get according to my definition of Ksiel, you're going to distort whatever Chochmah you get into fitting your own agenda. So it's just not you're going to mangle. Like one of my friends used to say, and it's not he didn't invent this, but like my mind's like a steel trap and mangles everything that goes into it. Like that's how the Ksiel is going to go. If you're a veteran pleasure seeker and you're addicted to pleasure, you're either going to weaponize Chochmah to serve your pleasure, and you're gonna, it's gonna warp it, or you're gonna use it in a way that's destructive, or and it's gonna stunt your growth. Or you just won't be able to implement the Chochmah because the Chochmah is going to be telling you to do one thing, and you're not going to be able to act against your desires. And then and same thing with the Malbim. If someone opposes Chochmah because it goes against his desires, then he's going to be compartmentalized and he's not going to actually be able to like live according to what he learns. So it really does matter the kind of person you are. And again, that's the whole premise also of the Rambam's halacha is that we don't just teach Chochmah to everyone and say that it's all, it's going to make everyone better. Like, no, Ksilim are not roy for Chochmah and Leitim are not fitting for Chochmah, and Russia is going to use Chochmah for bad things. So we don't say it's good for everyone.
So it sounds like what you're saying is more on like the Ksiel himself as opposed to like the Chochmah, because I was thinking like, oh, but we say also that like that whatever situation you can learn from or from whoever that you should, right? Like there are other psukim.
Yeah, but I think what Moshe said is Moshe was saying that this Ksiel who thinks he could just buy Chochmah has a distorted idea of what Chochmah is.
No, yeah,
example,
I didn't realize the emphasis was like on
Yeah, I'm glad you asked about it. But I'll give you an example. The Ksiel thinks that Chochmah is like a commodity or like money that you could just have. If I have money and if like, Elon Musk has money and if like, Hitler has money, the money is the same, in terms of like our ability to have it. But Chochmah cannot sit in the person in the same way depending on who they are. Yeah. Okay, Stephanie.
Okay, so I'd like to refine my idea
Okay,
to
good.
like
Nice.
add on why it matters that they're buying it.
Yeah, sure. Let me find it. Did I just skip? Oh, here we go. Yeah.
So when there's profit involved with gaining wisdom or knowledge, the person who's selling it can have additional motivation to promote certain ideas or sell certain things like vitamin supplements. And if you are a fool, you are more likely to be tricked by that because you don't have the ability to distinguish things that are beyond your desires or things that are going in line with your reality. And that's why it's important to go in with the right intention and way of thinking when you are buying knowledge.
All right, you might not be able to discern, I guess to see past the marketing to know what's actually good, and it's even more important to be discerning about what you're purchasing. Okay, that is a better answer. Racheli?
Okay, so this is in response to a question I asked before, which is why it specifies both that it's a Ksiel and that he or she doesn't have heart or mind. So my answer is that the audience is either someone who is seeking Chochmah for themselves, or I think a relevant example could be like a parent seeking Chochmah for their kid, where you might be discouraged by a lack of a display of like outright intelligence or like just open intelligence, I guess. But that shouldn't be enough to discourage you from still pursuing wisdom either for yourself or for your kid, as long as you come from the correct place, which is humble and, desiring Chochmah for its own sake and not in order to pursue pleasure or whatever.
Okay, good. That is good. That's right. So in other words, you're saying that if you just did not have a heart, you should still pursue Chochmah. And then, yeah, meaning that it's adding the quality of ksil to say, don't just think it's the fact that this person has no heart, right? But it doesn't go the other way.
Wait, what? What
In
do
other
you
words, you're saying that when you say you lack a display of outright intelligence, that would be if it did not say ksil. That would just be if it said someone who does not have a heart, right?
Right, but because it says ksil, you know that
Right.
that's like a necessary
Yeah.
thing to deter you from seeking.
Right, correct. Yeah, all right, good. That's a good answer. Okay, well, we had a lot more ideas from people tonight than we usually do. So usually we would stop now, but I do feel like we need to do some meforshim. So if you have to go, you have to go. But I want to at least do Metzudas David and Rabbeinu Yonah, because I think both of them, if I remember correctly, don't learn it the way that we did. Let's see. Lamazet, Ratza Lomar Haksil Hamolich Mechir Kesef Lemorim. So a ksil who takes a sum of money to teachers, this is like Alter said, liknos, don't sell yourself short. Liknos Chochmah, to purchase or to acquire Chochmah. Lama ze lo hamachir. What's he doing with this money? Uma mo'il ba, and what benefit will it give him? V'im liknos Chochmah la'atzmo, halo ein lo lev masi kadvarim muskalim. If it's to buy Chochmah for himself, he doesn't have the mind to grasp conceptual matters. Okay, so this is a little bit different. So just summarize the pshat that he's saying. Okay, so he's saying like this. He's saying the case is that the ksil is hiring someone to teach him, abstract knowledge. Okay. And that's what I'm saying, like conceptual matters. Okay. So it's not like this is not just Mishlei knowledge. I don't think you would call that Devarim Muskalim. So Chochmah, science, philosophy, halacha, or whatever. Okay. And it's saying, what benefit will this give him if he doesn't have the mind to grasp such concepts? So the question is, what is it about a ksil that prevents him from grasping abstract concepts? This is a much more narrow interpretation than what we've had, but I think there's a really good idea here. So what would it be about a ksil? So in other words, this is answering Racheli's question in a different way, saying that a ksil, it's the quality of ksil that prevents him from having a lave, that prevents him from having an abstract mind. Okay, this is like how ArtScroll was translated. He doesn't have an understanding mind or understanding heart. So what is it about ksil with either of our definitions that prevents him from grasping abstract concepts? Yeah, Racheli?
Maybe that they take like long-term effort and you can't just assume that you'll grasp it right away.
Okay, that's one possibility, which is that the more abstract the knowledge, the longer term, the longer you'll need to invest in working to obtain it. Hold on just 1 second. What is the I got to read the my favorite example of this in the Rambam. Okay. No, that's photos. Hold on just 1 second here. Text. If I can't find this immediately, then I'll just have to paraphrase it. Dopamine attention span. Yeah. This will be related to that. Give me 1 second. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Got it. So he's talking about why not everyone can learn metaphysics. So he says, man has, this is Rambam in Mordebukim 134, man has in his nature a desire to seek the ends, and he often finds preliminaries tedious and refuses to engage in them. Know, however, that if an end could be achieved without the preliminaries that precede it, the latter would not be preliminaries, but pure distractions and futilities, right? That's what it means to be a preliminary. Now, if you awaken a man, even if he were the dullest of all people, as one awakens a sleeping individual, and you were to ask him whether he desired at that moment to have knowledge of the heavenly spheres, namely, what is their number, and what is their configuration, and what is contained in them, what angels are, and how the world as a whole is created, and what its end is in view of the arrangement of its various parts with one another, and what the soul is, and how it is created in time with the body, in the body, and whether the human soul can be separated from the body, and if it can, in what manner, and through what instrument, and what distinction in view. And if you put the same question to him with regard to other subjects of research of this kind, he would undoubtedly answer in the affirmative. In other words, of course I want to know these things. He would have a natural desire to know these things as they are in truth, but he would wish this desire to be allayed and the knowledge of all this to be achieved by means of one or two words that you would say to him. He wants the instant fix. If, however, you would lay upon him the obligation to abandon his occupation for a week's time until he should understand this, he would not do it, but he would be satisfied with deceptive imaginings through which his soul would be set at ease. He would also dislike being told that there is a thing whose knowledge requires many premises and a long time for investigation. So in other words, he's not going to have the patience not only for the concepts, but for the preliminaries, so I think that's a good answer. Yeah. Avital, you have another answer?
Also, some of the things are concrete.
Yes.
Maybe like just harder to grasp and to understand. And that can be like requires kind of like what the Rambam's saying, it requires not like preliminaries, but requires practice just dealing with ideas that are in the abstract realm. And also their application is, but like due to the fact that they're abstract, is also not going to be as A to B. So when dealing with these things, the ksil isn't going to have the ability to understand the abstractness, and then also to apply the abstractness to make it something that for him.
But why ksil specifically? Like, in other words, there are people who lack a lave but are not ksilim, and they will also have a hard time with the abstract ideas. So what is it specifically about a ksil that will be an impediment to his abstract knowledge?
Well, if he's living a life of pleasure seeking,
there you go.
So then abstractness just is of no consequence to him.
Okay. So I think it's actually worse than that. I think that might be part of it, but I think it's worse. Anyone have know where I'm going with this? Yeah, Moshe?
I mean, not even that it's like an intellectual like inability, but perhaps it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's like a state of mind. There's a better way of saying that, but
let me throw this out here, okay? Which is that abstract means that it's divorced from the particulars, okay? The problem is the ksil's whole life revolves around physical, pleasure-oriented particulars, okay? So he won't be able to break free from the grips of the values that he attaches to things. Okay, let me give you an example of this. Okay, this is my Rabbi Sachs, Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, not Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs. So he would give the mushal of, why was, and again, I know this is a apocryphal story, but Newton, let's go with the story that Newton saw the apple fall and then he came up with his, theory of gravity or whatever, right? So why is it that Newton is the one who came up with that? We see apples fall all the time. So Rabbi Sachs said, like, well, you've got one guy who sees an apple fall and says, ooh, food, something I can eat. You have another guy who says, apples are falling. Ooh, I can take them and sell them and make money. And you see his examples, Johnny takes the apple and he sees a weapon and he throws it at Susie, And then you see another guy is like, oh, apples are boring. But Newton, what does he see when he sees the apple? He sees a body in motion. Okay, and he abstracts from that and says, oh, apple is a body in motion. The heavenly bodies are bodies in motion, gravity. Okay, now I know, again, it's not so simple, but the point I'm trying to make here is, what do all these other people do? They are taking the particulars that they're engaging with, and they are relating to them via the animalistic pleasure-seeking categories. And as long as you're rooted in defining everything in terms of your animalistic pleasure-seeking, you won't be able to break free from that to see true Chochmah, because true Chochmah means that you're seeing it objectively. So I think the area where we see this the most, by the way, is in the soft sciences, in psychology, in sociology, in philosophy, in ethics, and in the areas of the hard sciences that brush up against the soft sciences, where what happens is you could have a physicist who is very rational and able to see abstract ideas in physics, but when it comes to something that pertains to human society, all of their own emotional values just get projected onto that, and they can't think abstractly because they're too busy projecting their own subjective values onto what they are thinking about. So I think that's that's the unique thing. It's not just a lack of ability or a lack of interest. It's that the ksil brings with him these categories of tov and ra that he then, it's like his glasses are tainted. He can't see through those lenses of pleasure objectively. Okay, Seth?
Hi, this is actually Racheli this
Oh,
time.
okay.
The other Racheli. So I have a little bit of a different, I'm not honestly sure if I'm kind of repeating maybe some of the stuff people were saying. Can you scroll back up to the 3 definitions of the ksil for a second? And by the way, I apologize, but my Hebrew accent is an Israeli accent. I'm
That's
assuming
fine.
everybody can understand.
Apologize.
Okay.
I should apologize for my Ashkenazi accent.
So my thought is the third one, actually. I
Okay.
keep thinking about someone who despises Chochmah because of his desires.
Yeah.
And this is how it relates to the ksil. So can you just scroll up again to the actual mishpat, to the actual sentence that we're, because, okay, so basically the way I see it is, and this goes back to what you were just reading, right? Was it the Rambam, the last thing you read about that he wants it concise and short?
Oh, sorry. The Rambam, the Rambam about waking someone up.
No, that it should be like concise and short, like tell me in 2 words, and
Oh yeah, Rambam.
Rambam, yeah, okay. So the way I'm seeing it is the reason the person is a ksil, because basically, what's the price that he's the way I see it is he's got this dichotomy in him. He's got a fight going on inside him where he scroll back to the definitions again for a sec, because I need to see that visually. So he has desires. He wants to keep doing what is desirable to him. He doesn't really want to stop doing that because his desires are still like, they're really, really pulling him, and he really despises the chokhmah. He doesn't want it. So that's the high price that he has to pay. There's this dichotomy, like the price that he has to pay to continue, like to try to stop, going by his desires and whatever, is that he has to admit in a way that, well, not admit, no, I guess.
I mean, it's kind of a losing battle, right? The way you're describing it, like.
Yes, that's exactly that's why he's a ksil, and that's why you were just saying what any person, right? That's the difference between any person who just wants to whatever. But the thing is that he's a fool to not understand that you can't also keep doing all these things that you have, all these desires and whatever, and yet kind of the price that you're paying is that you don't understand that it's not going to work.
Right.
It's not going to work. Am I making sense?
Yeah, right. So
you too, kind of, yeah,
right.
And that's
in other words, so that itself is his foolishness. He thinks he can sustain his pleasure seeking life and get the chokhmah for whatever his motives are.
And I think that the price, though, when we're talking about price, to me, is that the price here is his understanding that at some point it'll dawn on him that, like, the price he has to pay is it'll dawn on him that he's not being reasonable, that he can't get what he wants, that he will not get the chokhmah because he's so intent on the pleasure.
Yeah.
And that's the price that the realization will dawn on him that this can't be. He can't have both.
And he's not going to be willing to pay that price. Yeah, okay, good. All right, that's a good interpretation. Okay, so that actually might relate to the last interpretation that we're doing. We'll see, okay? Maybe not directly, but we'll see, which is Rabbeinu Yonah. So Rabbeinu Yonah, I'll translate, says, short Rabbeinu Yonah tonight, but Makomos Harbe in many places, Yikari Kinyan Hamidos Hachamudos Lev. The acquisition of good midos is called heart, or is really desirable midos, right? Desirable midos is called heart. Kumo Shakasu V'Shemei Tochachas Kone Lev. So he gives an example from elsewhere in Mishlei. Ubira Inyan, the explanation of the matter. Lama Yafazer Aksil Hono. Why should the ksil squander his fortune, liknos chochmah, to buy chochmah, v'od lokana midos, when he still hasn't acquired midos? velotiken darche levavo, and not straightened out. I'm going to use straightened out the paths of his heart, legarish min hamidos haraos, to expel all bad midos. Uk'inyan she'amru, as Chazal say, kol she'en yirascheto kodemes l'chachmaso v'chulei, anyone whose fear of sin does not precede his wisdom, in chachmaso miskayemes, his wisdom will not prevail. And that's from Pirkei Avos 3:11. V'hinei nezek rav yagia min halomed chachma v'hu bal midos raos. Great harm will come to one who learns Chochmah and has bad midos. So I don't know if this is exactly what Racheli was saying, but like I think it is related, which is that it's going to be a waste for him to acquire Chochmah when he has all these bad midos, because you can't reconcile those two parts. You can't have the Chochmah and have the midos, because real Chochmah, in order for, I think what Pirkei Avos means when it says it won't prevail is like it's just going to remain in the theoretical, and it's not actually going to affect the way that you live, and you're not going to internalize it. So like, what are you doing with it? And you might even harm yourself for all the other reasons that we said, because you're going to end up warping the Chochmah, or you're going to make it in service of your bad midos, like the womanizer example. So it's not going to turn out well. And maybe he's saying more than this, but I think at this point we've already gone over time, and I think I have reached the end of my my awakenedness for tonight. So let us summarize what we have. Lots of ideas tonight. Okay, so we had, I'm just gonna go from the top to the bottom, even though it's not the order here. So we had this last idea that we just said, which is that there's like this cognitive dissonance, this internal contradiction, that the Ksiel is a Ksiel because he thinks he can get the Chochmah and not give up his whole lifestyle, but he can't do that. Something's got to give, and knowing the Ksiel, it's going to be the Chochmah that's going to give, not the pleasure. He's not going to give up pleasure. Then we had Racheli's recent answer for why you need both qualities, why it needs to be in Ksiel instead of just Leiv Ayin. That's saying, don't think that just because you don't have a propensity for Chochmah, then you shouldn't try to acquire it. If you're on a neutral state, you can get Chochmah, but if you're Ksiel, so then that's going to preclude you from the Chochmah, either for yourself or for someone else. So then we had Seth's idea here, which is a warning to not to the Ksiel himself, but basically saying like there is no point or value in the Ksiel acquiring knowledge if he doesn't have the intelligence to use it properly. So if you are in that category, then don't seek the Chochmah. We have Moshe's idea, which is that Chochmah is not some like intrinsic thing that you can just purchase it and get it and then you're good. No, it depends on who you are and what you're going to do with the Chochmah. And if you're a Ksiel, it's not gonna, you're not going to be able to receive it properly. And I was saying also similarly, you don't just like think that you can just like put in the time or just like do some sort of magic exchange or have some sort of autopilot thing, or like Yitzi was saying, memorizing a lot of quotations, or like just like learning a lot of Chochmah matter, other than just gonna be a donkey carrying books. Mayan was saying that don't be tricked by someone who is just very, very eagerly pursuing Chochmah if their internal values don't line up with that. So you could see a guy like spending tons of money to like, get the best tutors and everything like that. But like if he's a Ksiel, then like that means nothing. Stephanie's idea is that it's talking to the general reader, but a reader who is somewhat familiar with what a Ksiel is, and saying that if you have these Ksiel-like qualities, you have to beware that can interfere with your Chochmah for the reasons that we've said all tonight. Isaiah said that that you may not be in a place mentally or emotionally or situationally to get the Chochmah now, so don't try to get it now because it's not going to do you any good. It's going to be a waste of money, and also you might distort it and you might give up the opportunity. So like you have to be in the right situation. Again, similar to the idea I said before, that it's not like Chochmah is magic. In other religions, Jesus can save you whenever. Chochmah can't help you whenever. Like you need to be the right kind of person in the right time and approach it correctly. Alex said that the motive of the Ksiel to get Chochmah is to be perceived as intelligent. So we, the audience, should not be tricked by a person like that. And I think I can add to that the Ksiel himself, it's not going to do him good because people are going to see through him. eventually. Like you're gonna see that you can have all these books and you can have your name on the building, but that doesn't mean that you actually like have internalized the value of Chochmah. Rifki was saying that that this is might be talking to someone who's in the position to sell the Chochmah, and you might think, oh well, ordinarily Ksil doesn't want Chochmah, but this guy does, so I should give it to him, and Chochmah is good, and yay, But no, it is going to be. Oh, and maybe I could learn from him or through teaching him, but no, it's going to be bad for Chochmah. It might be bad for this guy, and don't fall into that trap. Ariel was saying how Ksil who uses Chochmah will end up harming himself and others. And then Yitzhi had the example here of the person who learns psychology to manipulate others in nefarious and self-serving ways. Okay, Racheli said that if someone wants to be a student of Torah, you need to know where he's coming from. And if you are using Chochmah just to obtain pleasure, then it's not Chochmah. And then we asked, isn't that Mishlei's approach? And so we said, yes, for the regular person, but not for the Ksil, because of these three reasons, which is that according to Rabbeinu Yonah's definition, the addiction to pleasure will stop him from developing beyond that elementary stage. According to the Malbim, there's going to be a clash between the Torah and his desires. And according to my definition, he'll distort the Chochmah itself. And Yitzi was also adding that Chochmah is not just a means to the end, even though Mishlei is pitching it that way. But it's supposed to change and align the way the way you relate to the world, which is through Koheles and Shir Shirim. But he's not going to be able to get that. And then we had the Metzudas David, which was the Ksil is blocked from getting abstract knowledge. Why? Either because he's not going to have the patience and time to work on it to get it, or because his attachment to the particulars and the framing them through pleasure will block him from the abstract ideas that are beyond pleasure. And then we had Rabbeinu Yonah, which is that if you don't have midos, then your Chochmah is not going to last. Okay, that was probably the biggest haul that we've had in a while. Whew. Okay. Good ideas as always, and slight chance that there will not be shiur next week, but it all depends. I usually do not go to Nija and then come home from Connecticut on a Monday afternoon. I just want to reserve the option to maybe not give shiur depending on how long I'm going to be there all weekend, and so it'll be a game time decision. Okay, so stay tuned. But we'll see. Okay, thanks for coming. Have a good night. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.